Okay, hello. I'm Dr. Pierre Canisius, RUTERANA. I'm senior lecturer from the University of Rwanda, the College of Arts and Social Sciences, within the School of Arts and Languages. I would like to briefly discuss some of the findings of a research project from a research grant from the University of Rwanda Directorate of Research and Innovation, a grant that was offered to me as the principal investigator and my team members, Hodar Deo from the Center for Language Enhancement, French Department, Lambert Havugintwari from the School of Political Science and Development Studies, as well as Janvier Namahoro from the Center for Language Enhancement. So we got a grant to conduct a research on investigating the code switching phenomenon in higher learning institutions of Rwanda. Now, this is a grant to investigate this, as people from the School of Arts and Languages and the Center for Language Enhancement. We were interested in looking at this phenomenon of code switching or language mixing while teaching in Rwandan higher education institutions. So through our observations from experience, we noted that there was a problem of code switching while teaching in our classes, and we wrote a research project, and then we were granted this grant. Now, from a background of language teaching at university, in higher education, since the colonial period, French has always been the sole language of instruction in Rwandan higher learning institutions. But right after the genocide against the Tutsi, there was a new linguistic landscape which paved its way. That's when English was introduced as as one of the languages of instruction. That's from the history of our country. There were many Rwandans who had returned from exile, where they had lived for more than 3 decades. So they had to be part of the education system in the country. So from then, some secondary schools, primary schools, they started teaching in English, while others, continued to teach in French. And at university, a bilingual education system was introduced. Then, until 2008, when the government of Rwanda declared that English is going to be the only medium of instruction in public and as well as private education institutions. So, and at that time, many lecturers, many students, were French speaking at the time. And then this abrupt shift from French to English as the sole medium of instruction has proven to be a challenge, to many lecturers who were not enough proficient, in English. So at the University of Rwanda, most of the lecturers were sent to Kenya, for English refresher courses, for 3 months. And when they returned, their improved English could not still allow them to to deliver lectures properly and confidently in this medium. Hence, they had to recourse to French, and especially to Kinyarwanda, the mother tongue. And this situation, that's from 2008, and this situation still persists, from our observations, from discussions we have held with the students, lecturers. So this situation persists. Of course, though to a lesser extent, in higher learning institutions of Rwanda. For students, it could normally be assumed that students who have evolved within this English medium of instruction system since 2008, and who are currently enrolled in universities, have developed sufficient, proficiency in English, and therefore have no difficulties coping with lectures delivered in this medium. Unfortunately, this presumption is far from the reality, as many university students lack the prerequisite, the requisite English, skills to efficiently deal with their studies as well as communicate effectively after graduation. Actually, from the research team's observation and views from the general public and different media in Rwanda, there are students joining universities who are not competent, fluent enough in English to cope with their studies through this medium. During class, their discussions, in their group work, they often code switch between English and Kinyarwanda to express themselves. And this was also seen by researchers like Kagwesage in her research on coping strategies, to deal with, for students to, while coping, while trying to learn, that they switch code into Kinyarwanda or French. And there are other researchers, Hodari in 2007, in his study, he showed that students as well as academic staff express themselves in approximate English, or eventually in French. So these are Rwandans whose findings corroborated, this idea we still have that, from 2008 up to 2013, and then up to now, because this research was conducted from 2000 to 2022. So, which means this situation still persists. Now, we were guided by three specific objectives. So we wanted to identify the types of code switching types and their frequencies among students and staff, and then to understand the lecturers and their students' conceptions and perception of code switching as a technique in relation to teaching and learning, because from the literature we saw that it can be a strategy or to learning and teaching, and then to assess the impact of code switching on teaching and learning in higher learning institutions, because there can be an impact, positive or negative, but we are going to assess this impact. And then we were guided by two theoretical frameworks, notably language contact theory. We have a multilingual society in Rwanda where you have four official languages, with English, French, Kinyarwanda, and recently Kiswahili, the East African language where Rwanda belongs. So this multilingual, society, so within this framework of language content theory, definitely there should be possibilities or occurrences of code switching. And then the second theory which guided our study is the code switching as a communicative strategy. So these are the two theoretical frameworks that guided our study. Now, we conducted this study within three institutions: the University of Rwanda, which is public, and then two private institutions, which are actually very prominent in this country. University of Kigali, Université Libre de Kigali, ULK, and Institut Supérieur de Ruhengeri, INES. And these are actually the Institut d'Enseignement Supérieur de Ruhengeri, INES. Now, these three higher learning institutions have the most prominent, the biggest, and they are successful. So, and they have a lot of academic staff and a lot of students whom we could get information, data from. Now, in total, we were able to reach 88 lecturers, academic staff. We met through interviews, observations, and then we also met 264 students. Of course, they were randomly selected, but from undergraduate to undergraduate, masters, and PhD levels. And of course, the data were collected through interviews and focus group discussions, and then observations. And then we looked at this data we had, the qualitative data, and we analyzed them thematically. So the qualitative data in this project were thematically analyzed. We sought for significant themes in this data we collected, and then we found that there are some conceptions and perceptions, from the lecturers, and we noted that the lecturers code switch as a teaching strategy to facilitate. That's what they said. So the code switching for the lecturers, for them, it's all about facilitating, the students. That's the first category. To facilitate the students with difficulties. And then the second category, it's about the linguistic gap. Some lecturers agree that they have this linguistic gap. And thirdly, they said this code switch they want to express certain realities in the Rwandan context as an important message to express a strong feeling like jokes or anecdotes or anger or joy or indignation. So these are the three, situations that whereby the lecturers, they code switch. That's actually what it is. There is one striking example of a lecturer which I'm going to quote. He says, "To tell you the truth, English is not my mother tongue, neither is it to the student's mother tongue. Is it the student's mother tongue? In my view, you can never be as clear in your second language as you can be in your first language. The reason why I can't avoid mixing." So this is one important, quotation from one lecturer, and another one. For some topics, the facial expressions of students show that they don't follow well. So switching into Kinyarwanda completes their understanding. And I don't see why I cannot do so, because the majority of us medical graduates, we conduct their consultations in Kinyarwanda with Rwandans. So this is a statement from a lecturer from medicine. And then there is another interesting quotation that I also want to share with you. It often comes unconsciously. Then I have to switch to Kinyarwanda whenever I think that the prospective target population of our graduates, Rwandan farmers, cattle breeders, only speak Kinyarwanda. The students need to know the concepts in both English and Kinyarwanda, saying things first in English and then in Kinyarwanda. Now, from these three quotations, I find that these frequencies, of course, of code switching vary from age to age. We noted that frequencies of code switching are usually 40%. Usually, lecturers who said usually code switch, they are 40%. And those who said sometimes, they are 20%. And those who said rarely, they said they are 20%. And there's 10% of never. So these are the percentages that we got. And I got this interesting quotation of these people who said it's rare. To a lesser percentage, yes, I do code switch to support the students' understanding the terminologies used in traditional architecture and construction, and the more relevant example in Rwandan context. So these are quotations that show why, the conceptions of the lecturers in terms of when it comes to code switching and why they code switch. Now, when I look at the students' conceptions now and perceptions, they have, of course, the majority of Rwandan students in higher learning institutions, have had this opportunity to grow up in the English medium of instruction. They should be, in principle, they should be comfortable in English. However, they say, it's not always the case. Mainly due to the lack of teachers who master the language in their curriculum from primary to secondary education. So this is why actually the Rwandan government has called and is still calling on foreign experts to build the capacity of teachers in the primary and secondary levels. We have a lot you know, let's say, English teachers from neighboring countries, from, Zimbabwe, who are teaching now in primary, who are coaching in primary schools and then teaching in secondary schools and even at university, but to build capacity of teachers at these levels. Once again, the students, the lack of mastery of English by university students can also be shown by the results of the English proficiency test administered at the beginning of each academic year. So from the results, we noted that less than 30%, that's the students who pass with the mark, allowing them not to study English as a subject during their courses at UR, at the University of Rwanda. So this shows that their English proficiency is not, so there's need of having more input in English. So therefore, almost all the students from these three higher learning institutions, they agree that code switching is their daily mode of communication. In classes, the intervention in class, in their group discussions. So they agree that they cannot avoid that. It's unavoidable. And then when you ask them about the side effects, if there can't be any negative effect on language learning or even content learning, or in education as a whole, many responses converge on the fact that the mixing of languages in education can have an impact on the quality of education, because when the learners don't master the language of instruction, this immediately can be detrimental to their skills. Even understanding the contents, even at the labor market, when they have to express themselves, when they have to communicate. And this is also, this code switching phenomenon is also detrimental, especially in classes with foreign students, because the University of Rwanda is hosting a lot of international students. Not only the University of Rwanda, even these private institutions, they have foreigners, foreign students. So code switching is very disadvantageous to these mixed classes. So that's the impact. So when students don't master the language instructions, this hinders the proper assimilation of the subject taught. So this is obvious. And some students that say that the practice also promotes a kind of intellectual laziness, because they say it's actually unfair, when lecturers code switch and then the students do the same, yet during the assessment exams they are not allowed to do so. So which means the students cannot imitate, and this is actually harmful to the students, because the student cannot express their thoughts clearly, as they have not been, they have been imitating, the lecturers. So this kind of intellectual facility or laziness is also found among language teachers, of course, you know. And the most harmful effect of this code switching on the education is that at the end of the training, at the end of education, students have this problem, this communication problem within, you know, at the labor market demand, because we have a lot of complaints, a lot of you know, a lot of voices saying that people, graduates from universities, cannot express themselves. And then they cannot, I mean, at the labor market, they are not able to express what they have learned. So this is a very big challenge, which means that it's a handicap in many ways. It's a handicap to the students, so code switching is a handicap. And in a way, it is finally an aberration of disorder. You know, when it comes to linguists, I mean purists in linguistics, in their linguistic discourses, it's not, you know, when code switching takes place outside of class or elsewhere, both informally and formally, this at the metalinguistic level, it's not acceptable, because there is confusion, but also aberration in many ways to the listeners, or to the, especially the listeners. Now, to conclude, of course, code switching is used. People usually use code switching because they are not competent in one or the other language being used, or because they are interacting with people who have language difficulties. It is indeed this challenge that university students and lecturers are faced with. So from our findings, this is a challenge that our students have. I mean, even the university students have, lecturers as well as university students. It is a cost, of course. It can be a cost too for a reason. It's true. Code switching can be a recourse for a reason, you know, from literature. Otherwise, the mastery of the language of instruction, as well as other official languages of Rwanda, is a must for a successful communication and learning process, and as well as a successful education system. Thank you.